Welcome, beloved, to A Mystic in Christ. This podcast is here to help you remember yourself as one beloved of God. Each word is offered to help you feel how deeply seen, held, and chosen you truly are. Because in reality, nothing stands between you and the presence of love. Only a thin veil of forgetting. May these moments together be a bridge to remembrance, lifting the veil and carrying you home into the arms of love you never left. I'm your host, Nadia Neria, and together we listen for what love wants to say. So let's dive into today's episode. Welcome back, beloved, to another episode of A Mystic in Christ, where intimacy is a pathway to the divine. Today I'm here with my mystical friend Pontus, and Pontus is a clinical osteopath, mystic and ceremonial magician. He's also trained as an NLP practitioner and a hypnotherapist. And ever since he was a teenager, he's been super interested in alchemy and magic, so he's been training in many mystical magical orders, such as the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, Martinism, Rosicrucian, and Freemasonry. But his main path has always been Rosicrucian and alchemy, which also includes studies in Hermeticism, Kabbalah, and Enochian magic. So, welcome, Pontus.
Thank you very much. It's very nice to be here.
Right, so let's dive right in and talk about what happened. Like, we met 6 months ago and we had like a super cool connection immediately, like talking about Christ and God and all these fun things that we love to talk about. So maybe start by telling us what happened that night when you came home after our first meeting.
Well, I would just like to say that the reason that I reached out to you was because I read one of your wonderful texts online. And just by reading a few sentences of what you were writing, I realized that this is a person with some very profound experiences, and I was very drawn to it. So that's how it all started. But yeah, for me, it was a very profound meeting in many ways, I think. And I got home in the afternoon, and then I was putting my son to bed. And then afterwards, I just lay down to recover. And I had what you would call an outer body experiences. In some traditions, it's called a Unio Mystica, which basically means that you're fully, or at least partially, leaving your physical body and experience a holy union with Christ. And that's what happened to me.
So what did that look like and feel like?
I mean, it can sort of manifest in different ways at different times, but normally it's, if you imagine yourself being surrounded by one vessel, and then imagine that Christ is surrounded by another vessel, and then the vessel of Christ kind of descends down into your bubble, and where they meet, there is a third space opening up, and then the union happens within that space. And sometimes it could be more in your mind, in a sense. It can manifest on different levels. This particular time, I would say I was almost fully out of my body. I was not aware of my physical body. And then, I mean, normally it's an experience of just complete freedom and love. And for me, always it feels like a homecoming every time I have these experiences. And then Christ himself can manifest in different ways as well, but normally in what we would describe as a physical form. It happens on another plane, of course, but you see him physically in his body manifesting, basically. And then, depending on where I am in my own life, depending on what I need in that particular moment, different things can happen in these meetings. Sometimes it's just a chance to experience Christ, to basically he comes and he just reveals himself and he just gives of his love to you. So sometimes it's just a matter of being in that space and receive some recovery, some calm, some peace. Sometimes there's more direct instructions and things that are basically that he tells me what I need to hear at that particular time. This particular time after we met, it was very much just a holy union where I got to see him, experience him, and just stay in his presence. And that's a blessing in itself, I would say.
For sure.
Yeah.
So that sort of happened pretty much every time we chatted afterwards. Like I remember, like once we were just talking on the phone, and then you were like, "Oh, he's here," and like another time we were like trying to clean, and then he shows up in your living room. Like it seems to be like a pretty common pattern for you that he shows up for you a lot.
Well, it's normally it happens at specific times in my life where I probably need it for different reasons. With you, for some reason, it's happened every time I met you. So, but yeah, it can be. Well, I've had quite a few throughout my life. But yeah, it can happen sometimes, seemingly out of the blue as well. After we met the first time, it was basically the moment I started to sit down and relax, then he immediately came. Another time he doesn't knock on the door, he just steps in and then and then he's there. Yeah. One time we went for a coffee and then he was there. And another time I was at home and we were actually been speaking on the phone, and I was about to go do my daily stuff, clean my apartment and do all these wonderful things, and then he appeared again, right in my living room. So.
And how did that look like when you say he showed up? Like, how did you see him? Was it more like through your kind of the corner of your eye, or was it like fully like in front of you, like another person, or how did it look like?
No, it's fully in front of my eyes, like another person, but it's like it sort of happens on different levels at the same time. So I'm wide awake, have my eyes open, and I see him in my living room, but at the same time, the surrounding environment becomes kind of transparent in a way. So you're connected on a higher level, but you're still sort of fully incarnated in your body. But this is what I'm trying to explain, this kind of in-between space where your walls of your apartments are still there, but they become like almost transparent.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah.
But yeah, and I should also say that these Unio Mysticas, these meetings, they can happen with him manifesting as a person in front of me with my eyes open. They can be when I'm closed in meditation, eyes closed. Sometimes I more experience the light of Christ, like an endless light, and that can be limited to just surrounding me in sort of within my aura, or whatever you want to call it. Sometimes it's like a great ocean of love that penetrates everything. Cosmic energy, basically, the Christ consciousness on a whole other level. But it makes sense that if we wanna connect with this energy individually, it needs to manifest itself into one central point. Sure, we can sit and talk to the ocean as well, but it's not as specific. So depending on where I am, I can experience the Christ consciousness whenever I want, the big ocean of love that penetrates all things. But sometimes there's a need for a more personal meeting, and then these things happen.
So how was it like if you kind of span this arc now from this was like after we first met, and then our most recent encounter was also pretty interesting. It was like when Yeshua was like healing something in you, and I felt like I was facilitating that process, like being the vessel for him in that moment. And how was it then? Was it like you felt him like in ocean, or was it more like very specifically him? Like I remember you said I was like shape shifting and you saw him in my face, but it was like, was it more like, well, you know best, like how was it experience for you?
At that time, it was very much more like a channel of divine energy floating through you, from outside of you into you and into me. So basically, you were channeling the essence and that energy of Yeshua, of Christ, into me. And in this particular instance, it was to help me heal from certain things. So then it also makes sense that there's no need for a one-on-one personal conversation with Christ, because the purpose at that time was the healing. So you just channel that's how I experienced it, that you channel this energy into me and allowed it to work within me. But then my experience within myself was, of course, him speaking to me and telling me what I have gone through the last couple of years, how I ended up where I am today, and what I needed to do to be free from it, basically. So it was a bit of both. It was the channeling of the energy through you, and I was looking into your eyes. I could almost see the face of Christ like a hologram on top of your physical face. So you said shape-shifting. That's a little bit how it looked at that moment. But then he was, once the healing started, he was also speaking to me from within.
And for me, I can just share that it felt like, we were just hanging out, like sitting in the couch, like having a conversation, right? We were just like chilling. We didn't even plan that anything like magical should happen that day. But then it just felt like towards like after 2 hours or so, it felt like he was literally like there tapping me on the shoulder. And it was like, hey, now you can like invite me, you know? It's like, let's go deeper. It was like he was like inviting me to be like, hey, time to do some practice. Yeah. And then I was like, okay, well, tell me what to do. And then first I was sort of like, oh, okay, let's just close our eyes and pray. But then it was like, no. It was like very clear instructions. It was like, no, you're supposed to face each other now and like eye gaze. And then that moment when I just sat there facing you, it felt like, to me, it was like as if like a tide was like literally like rising within me, and felt like the Shekinah was like moving from like base of my body up into my head until I was like trembling almost with energy, it felt like. And then I think you started like feeling it as well. There was like something else just like coming through, and then was like just being in non-interference, I think, and surrendering. Like that was my experience, like just surrendering to that current. And then I felt like he was placing my hand on your heart, and then it's like things just started happening. But I think for me it was like the most important variable was like to just step aside and surrender, and let him work through us. And I think that the key was like that we were both willing.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, that's always the sort of the final point. You have to accept and allow him to do the work, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
Surrender.
Yeah, surrender, exactly. Because it's like there's always free will. Like he would never like force himself on us. And like in my experience, it's always like an invitation. Like everything comes by invitation. And it's like, he's like, I'm here, and if you want my help, like I'm available. And then it's like we open up to it, and then together it's like the presence grew and stronger.
Yeah.
Which was amazing. So, is there anything you would like to add to that?
No, not really. I mean, but it just shows also that in any spiritual work, the resistance that we face is the resistance that we create by ourselves, because he is always there.
Yeah.
Surrounding us, caring us, loving us, and the reason that we are separated from him is within ourselves, and it's no shaming in that. It's the same for everyone, but he's always there, and he always wishes to connect and to show his love and work through us and give us these miracles that can happen once you allow them to happen. But again, it takes a level of surrender that is not always easy.
Yeah, the ego doesn't always surrender easily, that's
No.
for sure. But that was with Jesus, and you also had experiences with Mary Magdalene, right? There were both of them like coming to you together. Do you want to share about it?
Yeah. So this was also, I believe we can't remember if we spoke on the same day or the day before, but that was also actually a first for me. That I had another meeting where both Christ and Mary Magdalene came at the same time together, and I never experienced that. I've had many experiences with the Mother Mary and the Madonna, the Black Madonna, but never Mary Magdalene in this form. And he basically came hand in hand with Christ. This time to give me some very specific pointers about my own path, my own spiritual work that I'm doing. Because as you know, there's been a big shift within me for the last couple of months. And she came to tell me that I was on the right path. And she gave me a blessing, basically telling me that what you're doing is the right thing to do. And they were basically there to bless my work and give me some comfort, which was a blessing as well.
Wasn't there some kind of baptism involved? Also?
Oh yeah,
soul retrieval.
True. Oh yeah, yeah. That's exactly. Thanks for reminding me. Yeah, exactly. And she showed me that by taking these choices that I've taken lately, I'm basically taking back a part of my soul. And she basically showed me like, I'm handing it back to you. You're retaking a important piece of yourself that's been lost. And then Christ was there, and I experienced him baptizing me with water also. So it was a blessing and a baptism into my new work, basically.
Like an initiation by both of them.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And maybe you need to explain that the baptism wasn't like literal, like you didn't get wet,
no.
right? It was
basically
like
a vision and experience of me. I saw Christ and Mary Magdalene in front of me, and I saw, I basically saw Christ above me, pouring water on top of my head, and I felt in my physical body how it was. My body was just trembling for a moment, and then just surrendering and relaxing, and yeah.
So how did you open up to all of that? Like, it hasn't always been like that. I'm sure you've had like a lot of good karma Jesus that have to remember in this lifetime. But what opened up that visual? Like, you're very visual. Like, I don't get so much visions. I hear him or feel him more, like somatically, his presence in my body. But everyone's different, right? And for you, like, that visual ability opened up after certain practices you did, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's different steps to it, I would say, but yeah, I've always been very visual. But for me, it always starts with a physical sensation. And sometimes I intentionally sit down and now I want to open up to Christ, and for whatever reason, to just be in his presence, to connect, ask for some guidance or whatever. But sometimes he just comes, and then it's like I feel it physically in my body. It's like an inner earthquake of energy, basically. So then I need to remind myself, oh, this is a sign that that he's coming, basically. So I need to like drop whatever I'm doing and just open myself up. So I allow myself to receive that energy. And I mean, honestly, I didn't have meetings with Christ all my life. They came at a specific point of my spiritual process, but I've always had visions and experiences of different beings and entities since I was a child, basically.
Beings, entities, meaning what?
Oh, anything from nature entities, angelic beings, many different things. always felt since a child that I was connected to something behind the veil, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Another world that was very present with me always, but I couldn't understand it at that point. And sometimes I had these visions and I didn't even think about them. It was when I grew up that I realized that, oh, actually, this might not be something that everyone experiences. So, but it was actually after I did my course into NLP, and we did some very deep hypnosis sessions for a full day. And that was a breaking point in my life, where I've always had these visions and meetings, but then at some point I sort of detached myself from it, ignore them maybe subconsciously. But then one day, my teacher at that point we were doing hypnotic inductions on each other all day. And I was like basically in a trance all day. And I walked out into his garden and I saw Mother Mary in front of me in the garden. And that just, and she was there, and it reminded me at that point of all the experiences I had as a child. And I walked into my teacher and I told him what I saw. And I told him, I never want to forget this again. I never want to detach myself from this again. And he said, there is no way you're going to be able to. And he was right. And then at one point in my spiritual work, I worked more specifically to obtain this awareness of Christ, a very long and profound purification work. And that's where the Unio Mystica started to happen on a regular basis.
And that was the year in Martinism you did with that initiation. Yeah. Can you talk more about that?
Well, there's I did a very intense work where, I mean, in the aim of this is to obtain what is called in different things in different traditions, but let's call it Christ consciousness, to fully unite in marriage with Christ. It takes a lot of work. Yeah, I did other work for probably 7 years daily before I was even that I could even start this particular work. And then I did it for 1 year, and at one point then Christ started to break through to me, and I started to have these meetings over and over again. Yeah.
Was that at the end of the year program? Or?
No, it started probably in the middle of the year.
Okay. Yeah. What exactly does this year program entail? Like, what is it all about, and why do you do it, and why would you? It was pretty rigorous, right? So why would you put yourself through something like that? And what did you do every day?
Well, the aim of it, of course, is to fully unite your own consciousness with that of God's. So in a more symbolical sense, it is a marriage to Christ. And in order to obtain that, you need to, like we spoke about the lower self, you need to be able to detach yourself from your lower self. So we can call it a purification. You need to work to purify yourself so that the ego and the lower aspects of yourself are not in control, because they want to pull you down. They want to prevent you from having these experiences of union and experiences of Christ and of God. So you need to work to purify yourself, or just simply balancing yourself. And that's what I did for 1 year, in a lot of prayer, very strict guidelines of how to live, and there was no TV, social media, or anything like that. Specific diet throughout the year, praying, confessing daily.
What diet did you do?
Well, you stop with meat quite early on in the process. So you go into a vegetarian diet at one stage, and then the last little bit is fully vegan.
And you had some strong physical manifestations, or maybe not because of the diet, but because of your inner process, like things were purging, and you had some health problems.
The first part of it is always the purification phase, and I was I got a really bad throat infection, very much, well, solar plexus, throat and mouth basically. So I had a really bad infection in my throat that lasted for up to almost 4 months. And it was so painful someday that I couldn't eat. I had to force myself to eat 1 meal a day because I couldn't eat. Some days we did similar to confessions every day for a year. And I remember some evenings it was so painful in my throat and mouth that I almost couldn't speak. And I couldn't eat, so I lost maybe 7-8 kilos in 4 months. So that was my karmic purification. And yeah, without going into too much details, once I was relieved of it, then once the purification was done, then more and more you start having these experiences of Christ, and they come step by step to you until you receive the final blessing, basically.
And then you say you started having experiences. Was that when the vision started of Christ? Or?
Yeah, visions, experiences of His presence. Just this presence of love. And I mean, you know it. It's not, there is love and there is love. It's a very specific sensation of divine love and presence. And that started to surround me in my everyday. It was like a blanket around me when I was walking around, and I just walked around feeling blessed and loved. In the beginning, I didn't know what it was. Then I started having more visions where I actually saw Him in front of me. And then also at some point I started to leave my body, and this could happen out of nowhere, basically, where He was just breaking through, basically. And then so you're opening yourself up step by step until you can fully receive Him.
And how was the end of the year program? That was something powerful happened at the end of it, right?
Yeah, I mean, this is, yeah, it cannot fully be, it's always a struggle to put it into words once that union happens, because in one sense, nothing in your life will ever be the same again. And in one sense, everything is the same. It's just the inner state that has changed. And people outside, unless they have experienced that energy and state themselves, they will not be able to recognize it in you. So some of my friends and family, they wouldn't be able to see a difference perhaps before and after. Sure, they can, some of them might be able to get a sense of it, oh, he seems a bit more peaceful and there's something that's changed about, but it's more on the inner planes, and it's how you look at the world. And once you're united with Christ and God in that sense, once your mind and consciousness becomes one, then everything, philosophy goes out the window. And it's because then it's more about learning to live with that. So it's very profound. The days after, I sat for 3 to 4 days under a tree drinking tea, basically. Just being in the presence, in bliss, in Eden, basically. And yeah, but it's it's not easy to put into words, for sure.
I understand. That's where language stops, right?
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
And let's see. So the Martinism, that is, like you said earlier, that is like a branch of Golden Dawn, and you've been doing it 7 years of Golden Dawn?
Well, it's not a branch of it, it's a separate thing, but most Golden Dawn orders are also connected to a Martinist order. Because they the Golden Dawn is a magical school, a magical system, and the Martinism is mystical approach, even though they, of course, aim towards the same thing.
So what's the difference? And who would know what to choose depending on where they want to go in their lives in their spiritual path?
I mean, magic is a tool. You use it to achieve certain things in the fastest way possible. Sure, some people just want to become a magician and have fun doing rituals and stuff, but that was never my aspiration or intention. So the Golden Dawn is a map to take you from A to B as quickly as possible. So there's a level of balancing and purification work that you need to do. If you were to start with that and do more of a mystical approach, it would take much longer. So that's why they're designed to work together, because a system like the Golden Dawn or similar will be more effective in the beginning, and it's more easier on you. Surely you could do the mystical approach all the way, but within this tradition, you call the Golden Dawn work, you call it the wet path, because it's more slow, it's more easy on you. You deep dive into all aspects of your being, to your emotions, on all your imbalances and all the traumas and everything, and you work kind of step by step through them. The other approach is like a fire baptism, where you start and then it will take you to the end. You can do it in a year. Oh. But if you're not prepared, you will not be able to handle it, basically. So you need a certain time of preparation, and once the time is ready, for instance, that's why, again, many of these systems work together. You start with the wet path, like within the Golden Dawn, like I did, and then at one stage you get to a point where you are ready to speed up the process. And it doesn't mean that you leave the Golden Dawn. You will still continue that path, but parallel to that, you will do the Martinistic work as well. But I was always told in regards to this work that this is not something you ask for. This is given to you when you need it. And it's very dependent on the person. It's not like everyone who goes through the Golden Dawn gets to a certain degree and then they need to do what we call the dry process, the fast process. It's very individual. I was very much stuck in my Golden Dawn process, and my tutors and mentors realized that I needed that at this time to be able to continue on my spiritual path.
Right. And what is the ultimate goal or outcome of doing all this Golden Dawn work that you've been doing for many, many, many years now, right?
There are different steps, and not everyone who is involved in it are really aware of the different steps. But I would say you can divide it into 3 steps. One step is working on your awareness, your consciousness, and the aim is to unite your own individual consciousness with that of God's, like a marriage to Christ and God, basically. There's another aspect of the Golden Dawn work. It exists in a few other systems as well, when you work with something called the alchemical bodies, basically working on creating a aura around you that will be able to carry your consciousness after death. And that's a whole path of itself. But it happens in the Golden Dawn, and there are some other traditions who work with this also. And then one of the big focuses within the Golden Dawn is unification with what's called the Holy Guardian Angel. So I would say that these are the 3 big ones.
And how is the Holy Guardian Angel like different or similar to Christ or Christ consciousness?
It's very similar. it's the same sort of manifestation in a sense, but if you imagine that Christ is the sort of the logos, the mediator between God and man for all of humanity, then the angel is the same, but for yourself on an individual level.
Okay.
So it's another way to step by step unite with God and the divine, basically.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And but in the beginning of the Golden Dawn, you said you worked a lot with the Egyptian gods also.
Mm-hmm.
And then ultimately that it's almost like they're like the saints in the Catholic Church, perhaps, or like having like symbols like of something like the one god, but ultimately it leads there. Like, can you explain a little bit how you work with those gods?
Yeah, I mean, now we're speaking about the Golden Dawn. There is like the Memphis Misraim order, which is like Egyptian Freemasonry. But basically, all these mystery schools go back to Egypt.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the whole point of it. And that's why you work with, in the beginning at least, with the Egyptian myths, the Egyptian gods, to sort of, you start in the periphery work because of what these Egyptian gods really, what they really are is same as with the archangels within Christianity or whatever. They're different manifestations of the one God.
Mm-hmm.
So you start working with the individuals, same as you start working with the individual pieces within yourself, in order to step by step move more and more towards the all, God, Christ. In Egypt, it would be Amun. Amun is the great all-encompassing God behind everything. And his first manifestation as a spark of light is Amun Ra. Ra is connected to the sun. So that's the first manifestation of it. And you have the connections with Horus as well. Has a similar function to Christ within Egyptian mythology. Mm-hmm. You have Isis and Horus with Mary and Christ. And that's where the Black Madonna actually comes from.
Oh, really?
Isis and Horus.
Oh, tell us more about that.
I mean, I I told you I went to visit the Black Madonna in Greece some years back, and it is sort of an open secret that the monastery where they found, two monks found an icon in the mountains, and it was of what they said was a Black Madonna and the Christ Child. So they built a whole monastery around it because they realized that her presence was there very strongly. But in the beginning, actually, when you look at this, you can see that it's not really Mary and Christ. It's actually Isis and Horus. But then they try to cover it up, basically. But it's it's the same mystery being transmitted. So Isis and Horus, they have the same, basically the same as Mary and Christ. So it's the same secret and mystery being transmitted.
And now you mean Mother Mary when you say Mary?
Yeah, Mother Mary.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's when that relationship with the Black Madonna started for you in Greece.
Yeah, that was my first experience with. I knew a little bit about the Black Madonna and sort of what it represents. But then a friend of mine took me on a trip to Greece, and we went to visit a monastery in the mountains where they had where they found this icon, basically. So they built a chapel, a church, and a whole monastery around her presence. And I walked through the doors, and she was immediately speaking to me, basically. We spent a full day there, morning till evening, sitting in communion, praying, speaking with her, experiencing her presence. There was also a spring under the monastery inside the mountains where there was water. Where they built a beautiful chapel, and then there was a hidden spring under the monastery. So we sat down there and washing ourselves, cleaning ourselves, and And we came back in the evening, and just after a few hours, we said, hey, maybe we have to go back tomorrow again. And we did. So we were there for 2 full days, just communicating with her.
And how do you communicate with her? Like, what was she telling
No,
you?
but this was almost like, it was bizarre for me as well. I mean, I'm quite used to these kind of experiences, but that was blown me away completely, because I stepped through the door and I had a voice inside my head speaking to me about myself. And now I can understand more what happened after looking back, because the first day was basically, and the black Madonna is black because it's a symbol of the earth. Mm-hmm. So it's God manifesting through the earth, mm-hmm. through the most dense aspects of the earth. And then always with these symbols, they're always a mirror reflection. So they exist on an objective external plane, but they also exist within you. So she was basically providing a mirror for me. And the first day I just got to experience many deep layers of myself. And that doesn't just relate to this incarnation, but also previous incarnations. So the first day was a deep dive into myself, going inside and down, basically, into the darkest corners of my own being, and things that I needed to realize and learn to work through and release and accept. And then the other day it was the other way around. Then it was in and up. And I had a different kind of experience. I also had experiences of previous incarnations, and just a lot of purification and blessing, basically.
Mm. And then very recently you were called to visit her in Barcelona, right?
Yeah.
Madonna.
Yeah, I've been to another one, very powerful, in Italy. And then now this year, it just happened that my 40th birthday was on Easter. And a couple of months before, I started to think about the Madonna of Montserrat outside of Barcelona. I had some friends who went to visit her, and I always wanted to go, but I haven't thought about it that much lately, last couple of years. And then all of a sudden, maybe 3-4 months before my 40th birthday, she popped up in my head, and I saw her in front of me in my daily life, basically, and basically calling me there. So then I knew that, okay, my 40th birthday, I will have to go to Montserrat and spend some time with her, and I did.
So how was that?
It's a magical place. It's such a beautiful place. Well, most of these places are, but it's it's truly wonderful. There's a statue of her there, of the Black Madonna, dressed in, well, obviously she's black and dressed in gold. Is carrying the Christ child in her lap, and she's inside of a beautiful church. So I walked in, I sat down in the church to do some prayers, and yeah, she started speaking with me, communicating with me. And then there's also a passage within this church where you can basically walk up and you can touch her one hand. She's surrounded by glass to protect her, but one of her hands are sticking out of the glass so you can touch her. Mm. So I walked up to her to have a look at her, and just say thank you face to face. And then actually up, I think a lot of people miss this, but up in this church, behind her statue, it's in an elevated position high up in the church, but behind there was a secret chapel, a round one in white, beautiful. Mm-hmm. And there's a big statue of Saint Michael, mm-hmm. where he stands with his spear piercing the dragon, and the roof is covered by angel statues circling around the room. So I spent a lot of time in there as well. That was that I felt was more like her place. Mm-hmm. And from that little chapel, you could see the back of the Madonna, up in a window, basically. So there was the external part, which was the church, where many people walked in and could see her from afar. But then if you walk up and you walk in behind her, then you can. That's where I felt the real communion happened, where her presence was even stronger.
And then you mentioned that she was also telling you about past lives when you've known her.
Yeah, she taught me some prayers.
She taught you prayers?
Yeah. Like if you want to reconnect with me, here's some prayers you can use. And I had experiences from previous orders and traditions that I've been involved with, such as the Knights Templar and others as well. So normally when you go to these holy sites, whether it's the Black Madonna, I also been to a lot of the saints, mainly in Italy, also in Spain. But it's sort of like collecting pieces of yourself, just like Mary Magdalene told me she gave back a piece of my own soul, and that's basically what you're doing. In one sense, your past incarnations meet your previous incarnation, and you get to pick up the pieces of where you've been before and learn how to integrate them here and now, so that you can move on, balance yourself, and transform yourself, and continue. And sometimes we need to know some things about ourselves, also from previous incarnations, and able to do it. But I haven't I haven't given too much. I don't put too much weight into these experiences. I mean, they're lovely and beautiful, and there are blessings. But in the end, I'm here and now, and I have to face all that I am right now and work with this. So, but for sure, you need these kind of experiences and reminders, for sure.
It's so interesting because I remember the last time we met, she was coming through really strong, and that was maybe just soon after you'd come back from Spain. And I remember like we were in some kind of, I don't know, we were in some kind of healing ceremony, and I felt her presence like so strong, like, and felt like she was speaking through me to you. And I saw this vision of like you as a Knights Templar in a past life, and she was like commenting on a vow you had made back then and reminding you. And then you told me later that you had sort of that same vision at the same time, like as I was saying then.
Yeah.
So
yeah, we both saw it. Yeah.
So how does it affect you now? Like those past life memories, or when she gives you these messages, like how do you like transport that into your life now? Because I think this kind of vows we made, this is also what Yeshua was telling me, like, yeah, and whatever lifetime you had, like we made a vow, or like I had another sister that I also made a vow with, that we would anoint each other again when the world was ready to remember love, and then we anointed each other, and then she started crying because she remembered me. And so it's also like pretty interesting, I think, how those past life connections, they come back now and resurface. It's almost like as if our soul remembers. So it's like they're helping us, like, hey, remember, like this vow, like this soul vow that you made in this other lifetime. It's still now, it's like it stretches across lifetimes.
Yeah, exactly. It's like different streams leading into the here and now. And I mean, yeah, I think it's just for us to remember, because in the end, what we strive for is to have that union again fully with, not just with God and Christ, but with everyone in our lives, and to be expressions of that one love.
Yeah.
And there is there is an obligation, in a sense, to do this work and to share this with others. It's not just for you to sit inside your secret chamber and have these experiences. You need to go out and help the world.
Yeah.
Like love one another. Like the words of Jesus, that's what it's about. That's what he did. Preaching, teaching, and being a expression of God and of that love, basically. So in order for us to catch up where we are now, and this relates to what I mentioned about the alchemical bodies, to carry our memories between lifetimes.
Yeah.
Because we're not able to do this, we lose a piece of ourselves every time we have to reincarnate.
Mm-hmm.
So the alchemical bodies that I mentioned is a way to keep your consciousness and memories intact as much as possible, so you don't have to start the work over and over and over again.
Right.
So that it's quicker, because in the end, it's for the benefit of the world. We want to help each other. We want to free each other from whatever is bringing us down and torturing us, and for everyone to have these experiences that we talk about now. So in one sense, it's just about getting there as quickly as possible, you know, for ourselves and for others, to help as many people as we can. And sometimes we need to be reminded of previous experiences, and also make vows that we will continue this, because in between incarnations there is a good chance of being disconnected from these things. So that's why you also take magical oaths and these things. So you actually bind yourself to this work, to this office that we get to carry. Once we have these experiences, we have an obligation to share it with people. And people are in different stages, different lifetimes, and that's fine. But we need to help people where they are as much as possible.
Amen.
Yeah.
I remember like what you just said about these oaths. So I mean, how they are like, how they stretch across time. Like I remember that Yeshua was like telling me about a vow that he and I made in an incarnation like long, long ago, like way before the cross. That was already like that soul vow about like serving love at the highest. And now in this lifetime, like he reminded me of that vow, and he told me like, this is the vow I made to you, and this is the vow you made to me, and this is how you can live the vow now. And like he gave me a practice like that, path of the living flame practice of like carrying Christ and inviting him like into your vessel, like to be the hands and feet and voice and eyes of Christ, you know, and be like, so that's like part of my morning practice now, to ask like the living flame, like, how do you want to move through me today? And then to really listen, like, okay, how does love want to serve through my human vessel today? And it's becoming like a living practice in service to love. And yeah, I love how you said that. It's really about helping each other. And for me, it's like helping each other remember. Like, you know, like Yeshua calls it, like in Aramaic, I think he often speaks about it as unripeness or forgetfulness. Like that the fall, and scare quotes, like that that we believe that we're separate from God and from love and each other. And then we act with less than love, you know. And I think the whole process of remembering is that we only dreamt that we left the garden. We never truly did, you know, and to awaken to the realization that we're ultimately already home. We just need to remember.
Yeah, it's a divine paradox where on one level we are never separated, but we're currently, throughout our lifetime, we have the experience of being separated.
Exactly, yeah.
And in all the mythologies also, you normally have a double aspect of the soul. You have Isis and Nephthys. They are the same, but one is fallen and one is unfallen. And this goes throughout many traditions. So there's an aspect of you that hasn't experienced the fall.
Exactly.
But one is having that experience at the same time. And it's the same in the Greek Eleusinian mysteries. You have Hecate and Persephone. It's the exactly same thing. One is incarnating into the... And one of the greatest secrets of the Eleusinian Greek mysteries is that Persephone, she goes into the underworld, and then Hecate, her unfallen self, has to go down and get her and find her and reunite with her. But then she realized that what they call the afterlife is not life after death. It's actually incarnation.
Yeah.
So what we experience here and now is the afterlife, what they call the afterlife. It's not what we would call life after death, but incarnating into the world. Now we're in the afterlife. And the true life is the unfallen self.
Yeah, the eternal life.
That never experienced the fall, basically.
The separation. Yeah. Exactly.
And there's also a twin aspect of Horus in the higher Egyptian mysteries, where the same thing happens.
And who's the twin aspect of Horus?
It's actually Horus in different manifestations.
Okay.
And you have that in the Golden Dawn temples as well. You have Horus in different manifestations. So it's the same principle manifesting on different levels of reality, basically.
I think that's why I love A Course in Miracles so much, because it's really like transmitted from that highest perspective of like remember that you never left the garden, you were never separate. You are still united with that one self, which, Yeshua calls the Christ in the Course. I think the Christ is the title he says that he did not keep for himself, but this is the title that we inherit, basically, that we are that one self, because God only has one son, which is Christ, but Christ is all of us. It's like in the Kabbalistic creation myth, like it's like these different charts, like the jar broke and spilled itself across earth and lots of little broken pieces, and that what seems to be like our separated, individuated souls, or like human selves that are scattered across the earth, right? And then the highest part of us, like that never individuated, that is still the one self, that is Christ. And I just get this memory now that when we met in that cafe a couple of months ago, and you had this vision of Christ, like I remember I went to the bathroom and then I came back and he said, "Oh, he's here," like, and you were seeing him, this like Vesica Pisces manifestation in like full glory, and then I was upset. I was like, why can't I have like all these visions that you have? And then you went to the bathroom, and then I was asking him, like, hey, why can't I see you? Like, Pontus is seeing you. And then he was like actually saying to me, it's like, hey, see me sitting over there, and this man like working on his computer, and like see me walking down the stairs behind you right now, and like, see me and this person drinking her coffee right now. I'm everywhere. I am in them, and that was just such a strong reminder to not go into that like separation of like, I'm here and Christ is out there, and we can just try to see him or reach for him, but it's actually he's already in us and all around us. And it's like the light of love, like the living light, that spark, like it says in the Course, and some it's just a spark, and then some people it's like a blazing light that's like emanating from within, and that is the Christ self.
Yeah, I agree. It's it's like that very substance that sort of penetrates everything. And that's the thing, because the human mind will always try to make separation between things, while God is one. So everything that keeps you from experiencing this oneness and this godly Christ consciousness is yourself making separations between different things. And it's natural in our biology to do it, and how our brains work as well. But that's the tricky part, because God is one and Christ is always present, but we have separated ourselves from him. So we need to focus on ourselves. It's not about, hey, I'm this person, why can't I invite Christ in? No. Open yourself up. He's always there. He's always there. He's there even when you don't know. So that's why the work is always, we do the work on ourselves to open ourselves up to be able to receive him. And yeah, that's takes some work. but yeah, we are the only ones standing in the way, basically.
Yeah, and that's something he keeps reminding me of, like every day when I'm journaling with him or I'm praying. It's like he's always telling me I'm right here and I've never left. And even though you don't always think of me or feel me, like I'm still here every second, every moment. And yeah, I think it's just like the veil of perception, right, that keeps us separate from the awareness of love's presence. And I think it's really just the work is to remove the blinders or like those dark spots in our perception that make us like not see the light.
Exactly, yeah.
So how would you recommend to people who want to perceive him more clearly, like to open up, like where should we begin?
Oh, it's so hard to say, because it's so individual in my experience, like in terms of how you want to approach this kind of work. But I mean, and for me, I've done a parallel process of more magical work, more mystical work. But I mean, reading and praying, I think, is always a good start, and to sort of realize within yourself that to aspire to something beyond yourself, to something higher, something. It's better in English, because there you have belief and faith. We don't have this in Swedish. It's like to have faith that there is a God, that Christ is real, and to aspire to that. But it takes a lot of courage to do this as well. To open your heart to something that you cannot immediately perceive. But I would say, I mean, reading and you can do, I mean, meditation, prayer, to just working to dissolve yourself a little bit, to detach yourself from, because that is what we do when we do spiritual work. We are working through peels of ourselves and our own world map and everything that we built our identity around, everything that we perceive to be ourselves. And this is the one thing that we need to detach ourselves and free ourselves from. It does not mean that the individual person will not be there. It's just that you're not bound by what happened to you in this lifetime. In other lifetimes, you're not bound by your biology or your emotional patterns or your way of thinking. So you're through reading, meditation, also prayer, if that works for people, to just aim for that center within yourself that is sort of untouched by all these other things. The self, in a psychological term, the sun in astrological terms, that the zodiacs and the star signs are moving around. But and that's what you do in the Golden Dawn. You align all your individual aspects to that central point within yourself. So you have to be ready to give up yourself, to detach, give up all that you believe yourself to be, but step by step. It's not you don't have to do it in a year. So, but just realize that God is real, Christ is real, and if you just, for me, even if you go through very specific traditions and teaching and stuff, what I always go back to is a humbleness. Be humble in your heart, and that will carry you a long way. If you're just open and willing to perceive something that is bigger than yourself, then whatever you do is just the tools and the means to get there, and whatever works for you is fine. But it's that longing to experience something more, to realize that how I am and what I am right now is not the best version of myself. So just have that, awaken that kind of longing within the heart and within yourself to unite with Christ. And that longing, that flame of longing will carry you a long way. And just be humble. Don't be too harsh on yourself. I'm saying this to myself at the same time, but yeah, the longing will carry you a long way. And then if you decide to read and be inspired, do specific meditations or prayers, whatever you want to do, I'm sure it will carry people there if they have the longing of experience.
Yeah, I can relate to that feeling of the longing. I think we mirror each other on that, because I feel like we both carry that deep longing for the beloved since childhood. Like for me, as long as I can remember, and it's been like for a long time for me, it's been like this unnameable like presence, or it's just like more like an abstract like sense of like there's an eternal beloved who I long to reunite with, but it didn't really have like a name or like a face. It was more like an abstract presence of love for many, many, many years. And then with maybe, I don't know, some years ago, that Yeshua came more and more like densely. It feels like he's always been with me. Maybe since 2012 I started having like visions of him and Magdalene, where it's just sort of like, hey, I'm here, like, remember me? Yep. Like, I'm here, hi. And I was like, okay, there you are, nice to see you, you're my friend, cool. But it wasn't like, I didn't make that connection. between that eternal beloved whose presence never leaves and actually also being Christ to Yeshua. And it's like that was only much later, like a few years ago, that those pieces really clicked into place. But it's like you said, it's like different traditions, but it's like the longing in the heart and then the willingness to open and receive and like be in a state of surrender and trust. I think that's like the key variable.
Yeah.
Really. Trust, I think, is also really, really important for me, because you and I were also pretty intellectual, and I think it can come easy then that the mind comes in and like starts to doubt, oh, maybe I'm making this all up, or this is crazy. This is like not real, you know. And it's just very important to really trust that experience, even though maybe there's not as much like framework in the world, like in the normal world around it, and you can start to feel like what is going on. Like for me, it feels like that sometimes, like, whoa, what is happening? Like I'm in some kind of mystical union of Christ, and then outside there's like children playing in the playground and people picking up their kids, and I'm like, oh! It's like, how do you reconcile these different experiences in and outer?
Yeah,
I think that's where trust comes in, and trust in the unseen and in the unknown, and in God, like you said.
Yeah, and I mean it's it's natural that we have these doubts before, after, during, also sometimes, but then for me that's where I realize what the fall really symbolizes, which is this veil of perception that you mentioned between our individual selves and God. And but that takes time as well to learn to live with these experiences, integrate them in your life, and still walk the earth. Speaking to everyone and realize that everyone is God.
Exactly.
Even when they don't know it.
Exactly.
And but it's part of the work.
Yeah. And it's like then it's Jesus calling us to help, like to remember for them, you know, because most of us have forgotten. But then if one aspect of the sonship of Christ sees Christ in the other, like like imagine you forgot and I remember that you are Christ and I see Christ in you, then it's like you remember also, because we're not separate. Like all minds, the mind is not separate. We're not this separate entity. Like all the minds are connected. So then my remembrance of you helps your remembrance, and then you remember it in someone else, and then they remember. So it's almost like this domino effect of you're like always affecting each other because we're not separate.
Yeah. And that's what many of these traditions aim towards as well. It's the integration of the world. You start by integrating yourself, and then you help with the integration of the world. And you mentioned these pieces. It's basically the shattered pieces of Adam, the primordial man, made in the image of God, broken into these millions and trillions of infinite pieces. And these are the pieces that need to be reunited. And Christ helps us to do that.
Amen. Okay, I feel like we should like end here, because there's like so much more I want to talk about with you, but it feels like maybe you're gonna have to do a part 2 at some point, because it's not all gonna fit into one episode. But if there was like one last thing, like a blessing or a word or prayer or anything that you would like to leave our listeners with today, what would that be?
Well, I can just start to speak from my own sort of longing, and my deepest longing is truly for everyone to have these realizations and experiences. Because as humans, we all look for love in different ways, and to just, I guess, maybe encourage people to want to look for the love of Christ, because that is the only love that will never go away. Eternal love. And it doesn't matter who you are, what you do, it will always be there. And to be able to experience that is the biggest blessing of all. So I would just, if anything, I just want to leave people with, encourage them to, if they have this longing, to really follow it, and to work for it, pray for it, open themselves up for it, and I pray and hope that everyone listening will to one level or another have the blessing of experiencing this. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. I really felt that in my heart. Beautiful.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for being here with us, Pontus. And I feel like there's going to be a sequel at some point. For
I think we need a part 2.
Yes.
Just starting to get going.
Okay, beloved, thank you so much. And if you want to connect with Pontus, he's writing on Substack at The Threshold, and I will also link to his blog and podcast. So thank you for being here with us. And if you have any questions, don't be afraid to reach out. And until next time, so much love to you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
So now, beloved, let these words seep like warm oil into the old wound that whispers, too much or not enough. Remember, you are never alone. You are eternally held. And if this episode nourished you, please leave a review and subscribe. It helps this podcast grow and reach more hearts ready to remember love. If you wish to drink even deeper, join our community over on Substack for more intimate stories, love-drenched poetry, and sacred fire. You can find us at nadianeria.substack.com, and I'll also leave a link in the show notes for you. Until next time, may you remember your own sacredness. May you rest in the everlasting arms of love. And may you breathe as one beloved of God.